Work and leisure. Is that dichotomy what separates us from the rest of the animal kingdom? Welcome to Strip Coverlet, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and we are here for another poetry discussion, which will appear in two different playlists here on the channel. Number one being the poetry discussion playlist, now over 700 videos strong. And the second is the Robert Frost playlist, a playlist of videos dedicated exclusively to Robert Frost. The poem in question today is known as The Need of Being Versed in Country Things, and it reads as such. The house had gone to bring again to the midnight sky a sunset glow. Now the chimney was all of the house that stood, like a pistol after the petals go. The barn opposed across the way that would have joined the house in flame, had it been the will of the wind, was left to bear forsaken the place's name. No more it opened with all one end for teams that came by the stony road to drum on the floor with scurrying hoofs and brush the mow with the summer load. The birds that came to it through the air at broken windows flew out and in, their murmur more like the sigh we sigh from too much dwelling on what has been. Yet for them the lilac renewed its leaf, and the aged elm, though touched with fire, and dry pump flung up an awkward arm, and the fence post carried a strand of wire. For them there was really nothing sad, but though they rejoiced in the nest they kept, one had to be versed in country things not to believe the Phoebes wept. So, before we talk about what happened in the poem, I want to stop here. Phoebe. A phoebe is a bird. Birds are all symbols of some sort. Birds all have one or another interpretation to them. Phoebes represent new beginnings. So we end the poem with a symbol of a new beginning. So where do we begin the poem? What do we have here? Well, the house brought the sunset glow to midnight, burned down in the middle of the night, and the chimney was the only part of the house that still stood, like a pistil of a flower after the leaves, the petals, had fallen off. The barn, however, opposed across the way, that would have joined the house, it would have gone up in flames as well, had it been the will of the wind, but it was left to bear the place's name. So the house is burned down, the barn still stands, and now the ruins of the house are being reclaimed by nature. Probably the barn as well. The barn has been abandoned because the house has burned down. The house connected to it had burned down. So, what do we take from that symbol? The house burned down, and the barn is no longer used because the house was abandoned. The birds don't seem to care, right? The birds are still there regardless. Well, us humans, we have inordinate desires for free time. It would be easy to say, well, all the bird has is free time. He doesn't have to wake up and go to work. Well, it would be easy for you to say if you were being hunted by cats and all sorts of other predators all day long that not having a job was not work. But the work of survival is all that nature has. We compartmentalize that. We have created economies. We have created capitalism so that our labor can be um, our labor can be distilled through what is known as money. That allows us other free time. that allows us our 8-hour workday, our 8 hours of sleep, if you should be so lucky, and then 8 hours of leisure between the two. And is it ever enough? That 8 hours between the workday and the time you go to bed? Or between the time you wake up and have to go to work, or however it is that you spread those 8 hours apart? But the people living in the house, we're not going to live in the barn. The barn is the business end. The house is the leisure part. The leisure part being gone, the humans had abandoned it. The humans decided it was time to go. The humans wanted no more once the leisure part was done. One of the interesting things about this poem is that it's not just nature that doesn't care, right? It's the birds. Robert Frost in this poem could have pointed out deer or elk or tomcats or coyotes, whatever it is that he wanted to point out, the foxes running around, but he didn't. The only animal really mentioned here is the bird. Is there further symbolism to that? I think so. Birds, well, they make their home over and over and over again. They go somewhere, they make a nest. It gets too cold, they fly south, they make a nest there. Or maybe they live in a condo. I don't know what it's like in Florida. And then they come back and they make a nest. This sort of thing would be trivial for the birds. I think the statement at the end that you have to be versed in country things to know that the Phoebes do not weep here is to suggest that fanciful city folk, perhaps, might believe that the Phoebes wept, might try to read some type of symbolism into, some type of humanism into the birds and their cries. But the country folk know that is not the case. Nature doesn't care. Nature is indifferent to the whims of humans. Why do we care so much? Why do humans care so much about things like this? It's an interesting question, I think. Your house burning down. You abandon that life because of it. We talked a little bit earlier about the economies, about capitalism, and distilling your labor in that way. Because of this, something like a house, we didn't build it, we bought it. It becomes symbolic of something more. It doesn't just symbolize our labor. It would symbolize our labor if, like the birds, we built it. But we didn't. We bought it. It is a symbol of how much value our labor is worth someplace else. So it burning down it's not losing the labor of the house. It's losing all the labor that we put in someplace else. What is the commentary to be made here by the phrase country folks, right? You have to be well versed in country stuffs to get this. The need of being versed in country things. Is labor itself in the country closer to the bone, closer to nature? After all, that barn was still standing, but it did not matter. The people living in the house decided to abandon it Anyway, that is all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. There is poetry every Monday, and as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.